We have to act now. Please do something.
Is that woman still coming to our shop?
Yes.
Then that is the problem. Wait here, I'm coming. Take. This one is stronger.
What should I do with it?
Bury it in front of her shop. But do not let anyone see you.
What happens if someone sees me?
It will return to the person who buried it.
In a bustling trading area where people bought and sold all kinds of goods every day, two provision shops stood side by side among many other businesses. One belonged to a young woman named Uchenna. The other belonged to her neighbor, a calm and well-mannered trader named Amara. Both sold similar goods: rice, oil, beverages, seasoning, and household items, but their businesses were nothing alike. Uche's store was large and well-stocked, but her attitude drove customers away. She was harsh, quick-tempered, and always spoke with a sharp tongue. Even when customers entered her shop, she behaved as though she was doing them a favor. And worse still, she charged higher prices than everyone else, insisting that her goods were premium and not meant for bargain shoppers. Because of this, many customers would simply pass by her shop and head straight to Amara's store. Amara, on the other hand, was everything Uchenna was not. She was polite, soft-spoken, and patient. She greeted everyone with a warm smile, even when she was tired. Her prices were fair, and she often allowed customers to pay later if they were trusted regulars. Slowly but surely, her shop grew into one of the most successful provision stores in that area. Customers loved her, respect followed her, and businesses flowed into her shop every single day. But while Amara was building her success with peace and consistency, Uchenna was burning inside with anger. Every morning, as Amara opened her shop and began to arrange her goods, she would first take a moment to pray quietly at her entrance. It was her routine, asking for peace, wisdom, and blessing for the day ahead. Uchenna would watch her from her own shop, her face twisted in irritation. Then she would mutter under her breath bitterly, "You want to tell us you are the only one who goes to church, Abi?" Amara would sometimes hear it, but she would simply sigh and continue her work, often wondering slightly, what exactly have I done to this woman? The two women barely spoke to each other. In fact, it had gone beyond silence. They did not greet each other at all. Even a simple good morning was absent between them. Uchenna would look away whenever Amara greeted her, and Amara eventually stopped trying after many ignored attempts. But Uchenna's bitterness didn't stop at attitude. Every morning, when she came to sweep in front of her shop, she would deliberately sweep all the dirt and rubbish straight towards Amara's storefront. Dusts, nylon, and refuse would end up piling at Amara's entrance. At first, Amara thought it was carelessness, but when it kept happening repeatedly, she confronted her. "Uchenna, please, can you not sweep your dirt in front of my shop?" But Uchenna would flare up immediately. "Are you the only one selling in this market? If you don't like it, sweep it yourself." And sometimes it would even turn into shouting, with Uchenna stepping out aggressively as if ready to fight.
"Get away from my shop, you stupid woman! Are you the only one selling here? You think we don't know what you are doing?"
Amara would always walk away, refusing to escalate it. But she had warned her several times, calmly, respectfully, that she should stop it. Still, the next day, it would happen again, and so the tension between them grew day by day. Silent hatred on one side, patient endurance on the other. As the months passed, Uchenna's jealousy grew worse. Every morning, she would sit in front of her shop and watch customers troop into Amara's provision store. Some came to buy rice, others came for beverages, cooking oil, toiletries, and household items. Many of them would arrive with smiles on their faces and leave satisfied. What angered Uche the most was that many of those customers had once patronized her own shop. Now, they preferred Amara. At first, she blamed them. Then, she blamed Amara. Eventually, she convinced herself of something else. This cannot be ordinary. The thought took root in her mind and refused to leave. Nobody can be this successful. She must have used something. She must have tied customers spiritually to her shop. The more Amara prospered, the more convinced Uchenna became. She stopped seeing Amara's hard work. She stopped seeing her kindness. She stopped seeing the years she had spent building trust with customers. Instead, she saw only one thing: success. And in her mind, that kind of success could only mean charm. One evening, after recording another disappointing sales day, Uchenna locked her shop and secretly visited a well-known native doctor who lived on the outskirts of the community. The man listened carefully as she poured out her frustrations. "That woman is taking all the customers," Uchenna complained bitterly. "Every day, her shop is filled while mine remains empty. I know she has done something spiritually." The old man stroked his beard thoughtfully. After a long silence, he entered into a small room and returned with a tiny charm wrapped in red cloth. "Take this," he said. Uchenna's eyes brightened. "What should I do with it?" "Before dawn," the native doctor replied. "Bury it in front of her shop. Once you do, her favor will leave her and come to you." A wicked smile spread across Uchenna's face. She paid the man and hurried home. The next morning, long before the first traders arrived at the market, Uchenna sneaked to Amara's shop. The area was silent. Not a soul was in sight. Quickly, she dug a hole near the entrance and buried the charm. Then she covered it carefully and returned to her own shop. That day, something unusual happened. Customers began arriving, one after another, then another, and another. By noon, her shop was crowded. People were buying cartons of goods, bags of rice, drinks, and provisions. Uche could barely keep up. Meanwhile, Amara's shop was noticeably quieter. Not empty, just not as busy as usual. Amara simply carried on with her work and thanked God for every customer who came. But Uche was thrilled. For the first time in a long while, she counted a large amount of money at closing time. The same thing happened the next day, and the day after that. For the entire week, her sales were excellent. Money flowed into her hands faster than ever before. Though customers still visited Amara's shop, their numbers had reduced significantly. Every evening, Uche would count her profits and laugh to herself.
You see, I knew she was using charm. Now her powers has finished.
Her pride grew. Her arrogance became even worse. She spoke to customers more rudely than before.
"Madam, please, how much is this oil?
The price is 20,000.
Is it not 15,000?
It's you and your entire generation that is 15,000. Get away from my shop, Mr. Man.
She mocked Amara whenever she had the opportunity. And by the end of that week, she was convinced she had finally defeated her rival. Then the weekend passed. Monday arrived. Uche opened her shop expecting another flood of customers. But the crowd never came. A few people bought things and left. The sales were average. Maybe people are still coming, she told herself. Tuesday came. The sales were even lower. Wednesday came. Things became worse. Meanwhile, something else was happening. Amara's shop was slowly returning to normal. Customers were coming back. More and more people began patronizing her again. By the end of that week, the crowds at Amara's store were even larger than before. It was as if her business had gained new life. Uche was furious. "What nonsense is this?" she shouted after closing one evening. The next day, she rushed back to the native doctor. The man listened quietly.
I don't know what is happening. It's like the charm you gave me is no longer working.
You must be patient. The process takes time.
Though dissatisfied, Uche returned to the market. Days passed. Nothing changed. Amara's own continued to flourish. Customers once again packed her storefront morning till evening. Frustrated, Uche returned to the native doctor again. This time, the old man frowned.
Is that woman still coming to our shop?
Yes.
Then that is the problem. Wait here, I'm coming.
He went straight into his room and returned with another charm.
Take. This one is stronger.
What should I do with it?
Bury it in front of her shop. But do not let anyone see you.
What happens if someone sees me?
It will return to the person who buried it.
A shiver ran down her spine. Still, her jealousy was stronger than her fear. She collected the charm and left. The following morning, before dawn, she returned to the market and secretly buried the new charm once again. Then she waited. 1 day passed. Nothing happened. 2 days passed. Nothing happened. 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, still nothing. Amara continued opening her shop every morning. She continued praying. She continued serving customers politely, and her business kept growing. Meanwhile, Uche watched helplessly as customer after customer walked past her shop. Her frustration turned into desperation. Finally, she stormed back to the native doctor.
This thing is not working. Huh?
Are you sure you did exactly as I told you?
Yes. Yes, I'm sure.
Then there is only one option left.
What? What is it?
That woman must be removed completely.
For a moment, the place fell silent. Then, to the old man's surprise, Uche nodded immediately. That is the best solution, she said. The man went into his room and returned carrying a small calabash filled with a fine powdered substance. He handed it to her.
Spread this in front of the shop.
What will happen?
Trust me, the charm will do the rest. Within a few days, everything will be over. But remember, you must perform the task within 7 days. After 7 days, the charm will lose its power completely.
I understand.
And there is one more thing.
What is it?
In 7 days, you must bring a large goat and 10 tubers of yam as sacrifice.
Don't worry. That won't be a problem.
At that moment, she cared only about one thing, seeing Amara's business destroyed. She took the calabash, thanked the native doctor, and left with excitement burning in her heart, convinced that victory was finally within her reach. Amara, who was a happy married woman with 2 children, was at home that evening, completely unaware of the silent hatred that had been growing against her. She went about her normal duties, taking care of her children and preparing for the next day, not knowing that Madam Uche had already taken steps that night to change everything. She had no idea what Madam Uche had been doing behind the scenes. The next morning came quietly. Before dawn had fully broken, Uche was already up and dressed. She left her house secretly and went straight to Amara's shop. The market was still dark and silent, with only a few early traders around. Carefully, she made sure no one was watching her. Then she sprayed the powdered charm on the ground and covered it with sand. After covering it neatly, she stood up, dusted her hands, and looked around cautiously. A slow smile formed on her face. Then she walked back to her own shop and sat down, waiting patiently. This time, she whispered to herself, she will not escape it. At Amara's home that morning, she woke up as usual. She prepared her children for school, packed their bags, and took them to school herself. After dropping them off, she headed straight to her shop. She was still unaware that anything unusual was happening. As she walked along the roadside towards the market, everything seemed normal. The morning was busy with movements, people going to work, traders setting up their shops, and vehicles passing. But suddenly, everything changed in a split second. A commercial tricycle trying to avoid a pothole lost control and swerved sharply towards her direction. Before Amara could react, it hit her and she was thrown violently to the ground. People rushed immediately to the scene. She was weak, dazed, and briefly unconscious. She was quickly lifted and taken to the hospital. At the hospital, after examination and x-rays, The doctors diagnosed her condition as a severe ankle sprain and a mild concussion from the impact of the fall. Her ankle was badly swollen and bandaged, making it impossible for her to walk properly. On top of that, whenever she tried to stand up or sit up, a sharp headache would immediately hit her head, followed by dizziness and weakness. Each time she tried to rise, the pain worsened. The doctor shook his head gently. "You will need to stay here for treatment and observation," he said firmly. "At least for a few days. You cannot be moving around in this condition." Amara had no choice but to stay. Back at the business area, Uche sat in her shop all day, waiting eagerly for Amara to arrive and unknowingly step over the charm. But Amara never came. Hours passed. Still, no sign of her. Even though Amara did not open her shop that day, Uche still noticed something strange. She only got very few customers. The people who came bought very small items quickly and left. It was nothing like the crowd she had experienced before. Still, she ignored it. She is just delaying, she told herself confidently. The next day came. Still, Amara did not show up. Uche became slightly uneasy, but she tried to remain calm. On the third day, news began to spread in the area. Whispers moved from one trader to another. "Have you heard? Amara had an accident. She's in the hospital." That was how Uche finally heard the full story. For a moment, she froze. Then slowly, she walked into her shop with a strange excitement building in her chest. A wide smile spread across her face. She began to laugh softly, then louder. "It had worked," she said proudly. The charm had worked. She clapped her hands in excitement. In her mind, she was convinced that Amara had not even stepped on the charm at all, but it had still worked from a distance. Despite Amara's shop being closed for days, Uche still did not experience the kind of booming sales she expected. She only got few customers each day, and even those few customers only came because Amara was not around and they had no nearby alternative. The business was not flowing into her shop the way she imagined, but she ignored it completely. This is just the beginning, she told herself. That evening, Uche could no longer contain her excitement. She locked her shop and went straight to visit the native doctor again. When she arrived, she quickly explained everything. How Amara had been in an accident, how she was hospitalized, and how she had not returned to her shop. The native doctor listened carefully, nodding slowly. Then he smiled. "Yes," he said confidently. "It is working exactly as intended." Uche's eyes widened. "So, she will truly be gone?" The man nodded firmly. "Within a few days," he said. Uche's face lit up with joy. She suddenly began to laugh and even danced in excitement inside the compound. The next day, as promised, she brought a large goat, yams, and other items to the native doctor as a sacrifice. She handed everything over willingly, still smiling, still convinced that her victory was finally complete. Days passed after Uche delivered the goat, yam, and other items to the native doctor. From that day onward, she lived in expectation. Every morning, she woke up hoping to hear one piece of news. Amara is gone. Whenever traders gathered in small groups discussing market gossip, Uche would quietly listen. Whenever she heard someone mention Amara's name, her ears immediately became alert. But the news she wanted never came. One day passed, then another. Still nothing. As the days went by, her excitement slowly turned into anxiety. Why was it taking so long? The native doctor had assured her that the charm would finish the job within days. Yet, Amara was still alive. Uche became restless. She could no longer sleep peacefully. She constantly wondered if something had gone wrong. A few days later, she was sitting in her shop when she saw a familiar face approaching. It was Amara's husband. He walked to Amara's clothes shop and unlocked it to take a few items. Immediately, Uche rushed over. The concern on her face looked genuine, but inside, she was desperate for information.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
How is your wife doing now? I heard about the accident. I've been so worried.
My dear, she's getting much better now.
Getting better? Ah, thank God. Please tell her I wish her a speedy recovery.
Thank you very much.
Uche slowly walked back to her shop. The moment she stepped inside, her expression changed completely. Her face darkened. Her hands trembled. She began pacing around the shop. Getting better? She muttered. How can she be getting better? The more she thought about it, the angrier she became. Several days later, Uche arrived at the trading area as usual. As she approached her shop, she suddenly stopped. Her eyes widened. Her mouth fell open. Standing in front of the neighbor's shop was Amara, alive, healthy, sweeping the front of her shop. For a few seconds, Uche simply stared. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Amara noticed her and smiled. "Good morning, Madam Uche." But Madam Uche didn't answer. She simply looked away and continued walking towards her own shop. Even as she walked, she kept turning her head to stare at Amara. Amara simply continued sweeping. Soon, customers began arriving. Some greeted Amara warmly. Others welcomed her back and expressed how much they had missed her. Before long, she was smiling and attending to customers just as she always had. Inside her own shop, Uche was miserable. She couldn't sit still. She kept standing up, then sitting down, then standing up again. Her mind was racing. How is this possible? The charm was supposed to work. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, she stepped outside and saw Amara laughing with customers. That was enough. She immediately locked her shop and headed straight to the native doctor's house. The moment she arrived, she stormed into the compound. "You lied to me!" she shouted. The old man looked up in surprise. "What are you talking about? The charm did not work." The native doctor tried to calm her. "Please, lower your voice," he said. But Uche was too angry. "You are a fraud!" The old man's face darkened. "Be careful what you say." "A thief!" she shouted. "A liar!" She grabbed the man's clothes angrily. "I want my money back. I want my goods back. I want everything I gave you." The native doctor pulled away. "I want you to watch your mouth." But she continued insulting him. "You have no power. You are nothing but a fake." Then her eyes landed on 3 goats tied in one corner of the compound. Without hesitation, she rushed towards them. She untied the biggest goat and began dragging it towards the gate. The old man shouted, "Drop that goat!" But Uche ignored him. As she dragged the animal away, she yelled over her shoulder, "I'll come back for my money." The old man rushed after her. By now, they were already outside the gate. He grabbed the rope attached to the goat. Uche refused to let go. The two began pulling from opposite sides. The goat bleated loudly. People nearby noticed the commotion and began gathering around them. "What is happening? Why are they fighting?" Neither of them paid attention. They continued fighting. The rope tightened between them. Suddenly, in a burst of anger, Uche shoved the old man hard. He stumbled backward. His foot slipped at the edge of a drainage gutter. Before he could regain his balance, he crashed backward. His hair struck the sharp concrete edge of the gutter with a sickening impact. A loud gasp came from the crowd. The old man lay motionless. Blood immediately began flowing from the back of his head. People rushed toward him. Some tried to stop the bleeding. Others shouted for help. Uche stood frozen. Her face turned pale. Fear swept through her entire body. When she realized how serious the situation was, she tried to run, but she didn't get far. Several people immediately grabbed her. "Where are you going? You can't run." The injured man was rushed to the hospital. Uche was taken directly to the police station. At the station, she gave her statement, but she lied. She claimed that she had paid the native doctor to help make her business prosper. She said she had given him money, a goat, yams and other items. According to her story, nothing worked, and when she demanded a refund, he refused. That, she claimed, was how the argument started. As she spoke, fear filled her heart. She prayed that the truth would never come out. Meanwhile, the police officers visited the hospital and recorded the native doctor's statement. The injured man spoke quickly from his hospital bed, but he told them everything. He told them about the charms. He told them about the attempt to harm Amara. He told them about the goats. He told them about the argument, and he told them exactly how the fight happened. By the time the officers returned to the station, they knew Uche had lied. Her situation became much worse. The police informed her that she would be responsible for the man's medical expenses until he recovered. Though worried, she was relieved. Perhaps things could still be resolved. But then, a short while later, devastating news arrived from the hospital. The old man had died from the head injury he suffered during the fall. The station suddenly became silent. Uche stared at the officers. "No," she shouted. One of them looked at her gravely. "You are now being charged in connection with his death." The word hit her like a thunderbolt. Her legs gave way beneath her. She collapsed to her knees. "No, no, no," she cried. Tears streamed down her face. Her entire body shook. Everything she had done out of jealousy had finally caught up with her. And now, instead of watching Amara die as she had planned, she was facing the possibility of spending the rest of her entire life answering for a death she had never expected. Amara remained completely unaware of everything that had happened. She had no idea about the charms. She had no idea about the native doctor. She had no idea that Madam Uche had spent months plotting against her out of jealousy. After returning from the hospital, she simply focused on recovering, taking care of her family, and rebuilding the momentum of her business. But by the following day, shocking news had already spread throughout the business area. Everyone was talking about Madam Uche. People whispered amongst themselves. "Did you hear? They say she killed somebody. They say she may be going to prison." Some traders could hardly believe it. A few worried neighbors decided to visit the police station. When they arrived, they spoke with some of the officers handling the case. As the conversation continued, the officers revealed the truth about the investigation. They explained how Madam Uche had secretly visited the native doctor several times. They explained how she had obtained charms. They explained how she had buried them in front of Amara's shop. They even revealed that she had allegedly planned for Amara to step on one of the charms. The visitors were stunned. When they left the station, they carried the news back to the business area. Before long, the story reached Amara. At first, she thought they were joking, but as more people repeated the same account, her expression changed. Fear spread through her body. Then anger followed. Her hands began to tremble. "What are you saying?" she asked. The traders repeated everything. The charms, the native doctor, the buried object, the attempts to harm her. Amara felt as though the ground beneath her had disappeared. For a moment, she remembered all the insults, hostility, and hatred from Uche. She remembered the death being swept in front of her shop. She remembered the argument. She remembered wondering what she had ever done wrong. Now, she finally had her answer. Tears filled her eyes. Without wasting another moment, she immediately closed her shop and headed straight to the police station. When she arrived, she met the officer in charge of the case. After introducing herself, she spoke with emotion. "Please," she said, "if she truly buried charms in front of my shop, let her come and remove them herself." The officer considered her request, and after discussing briefly with the other officers, they agreed. A short while later, Uche was brought out. The once proud trader looked completely different. Her face was pale. Her eyes were swollen from crying. The confidence she once carried was gone. When she learned why she had been brought there, fear immediately appeared on her face. Escorted by the officers, she was taken back to the business area. Word spread quickly. Within minutes, traders, customers, and curious residents gathered around. Everybody wanted to see what would happen. Under the watchful eyes of the police, Uche was ordered to point out the locations where she had buried the charms. With trembling hands, she bent down, then began digging. The crowd watched in complete silence. A few moments later, she pulled out the first object. Gasp immediately erupted from the crowd. What? So it was true. She actually buried something here. People stared in disbelief. Uche continued digging. Soon, she uncovered another charm. The crowd became even more shocked. Many people could hardly believe what they were seeing with their own eyes. Some shook their heads. Others covered their mouths in surprise. Several traders began discussing how close Amara had come to stepping over those objects without ever knowing they were there. Amara stood nearby watching everything. As the final charm was removed from the ground, she could no longer hold back her emotions. She slowly fell to her knees. Tears streamed down her face. Lifting her eyes towards the sky, she began to cry. "My God never sleeps," she shouted. "My God never sleeps." Again and again, she repeated those words. The crowd became emotional. Many people nodded in agreement. Others quietly thanked God on her behalf. Amara wept, realizing how close she had unknowingly come to danger and how the accident that had caused her so much pain had also kept her away from the very place where the final charm had been laid. Meanwhile, Uche stood in complete humiliation. The entire crowd was watching. Everyone now knew the truth. The same people she had spent years mocking were now looking at her with disappointment and disbelief. She could not lift her head. Shame covered her like a heavy garment. After the charms had been removed, the police escorted her back to the station. The case eventually went before the court. After the evidence was reviewed and witnesses testified, Uche was found responsible for the death that occurred during her struggle with the native doctor. The jealousy and hatred that had consumed her life ended up destroying the very future she had wanted for herself. As for Amara, she continued running her business with honesty and kindness. The story of what happened spread far beyond the market. Many people who heard about her resilience and good character chose to support her. New customers arrived. Old customers returned. Her provision store expanded. Over time, she opened additional sections and employed workers to help manage the growing business. And whenever people asked her how she survived everything that had happened, Amara would simply smile and say, "Hard work is important, but above all, never forget that God sees what people do in secret." And with that lesson, the market moved on. But the story of Amara and Uche remained a warning to anyone who allowed jealousy to take control of their hearts. The end.